Hi friends, and welcome back into my studio. If you are new here, my name is Tammy Ernest and I am a Longarm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own personal projects. And you may notice I'm in a new space. I am so excited. So this is my new Longarm room. I'm not ready to give you a whole tour yet, but I did get the Longarms moved in here earlier this week, and great, it worked great. Shout out to Jeff at Always in Stitches up in Noblesville, Indiana. He came and disassembled both machines at home and then brought them here and got them all set up all in one day, and they're working great. I've already had I already got a couple quilts on there, getting started back into the whole swing of things, but I am loving the brightness of this new space. Stephen is outside mowing, so you may see him go past the door. I don't know where he's at on the property, but he's mowing somewhere. But I really am enjoying the brightness and the lightness of the new space. It may be a little echoey just because I don't have a lot of stuff in here yet. You know, I still have some more furnishings to bring in, my wide backings and all of that, so it may be a little echoey, I'm not sure, but I love the brightness. I don't even have my big lights like I normally have, which I may bring in eventually, but today it was, you know, fill up the truck as much as I could. And because yesterday it took both my vehicle and Jeff's vehicle to get everything of the two machines here, both heads, all of the tables, all the bars. It took both of our vehicles. So then today when I headed down, I packed it as full as I could with as much as I knew that I needed to get going on the Longarms again. And as I make the trip down here each day, then I'll just bring a little bit more stuff, and it's been so fun. Even just this morning, I hung up my first Lori Holt quilt that I finished. This is called My Happy Place, My Happy Place. Did that several years ago. I have never had enough wall space to hang it up anywhere. And I'm so excited to have it up on the wall. That was my first time doing the large rickrack in the binding of it. And I think I did it a little tight because even trying to hang it up, it's kind of a little wobbly. It's not quite right, and I need to get better at doing that. That was the first time I'd ever done that, and Lori does that a lot in her quilts. But I've got all these walls. I've got 4 nice big walls besides that door right there to hang things on, and I'm like, I am ready to do some more Lori Holt. I have my garden one. What's that one called? I'm really bad. The garden one. I have that one, but I still need to put binding on that one, I just realized. But I've got all these big walls. I am ready to do some more Lori Holt quilt-alongs, and because now I have a spot to put them in. I'm so excited. But I am just back from a retreat. My Quilt Circle membership had a retreat in the works for about 6 months as we've been planning on this one. And I coordinated it for out in, I'm seeing my ring light on that door right there. I have to do some adjustments there. It's going to stay there for now, but learning all this new stuff. We did it out in Kansas City. I found a retreat center out there that was a great place to host a retreat. And many people were able to drive, others flew in. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I think the camaraderie was so good right from the beginning, even though we've never met each other in person, because on the Quilt Circle membership that I have, you get to know people, and we're working on common projects, and we already had so much in common that even though we'd never met before, it just it works so well. And the people are always the best part about a retreat. And it was just so good, so good. But I did want to share some of the things that I worked on while I was there. One of our major projects for getting together as a retreat was to work on some quilts of valor. So I need to back to July. On July 4th, I put a challenge out to my Quilt Circle membership to make some flag blocks, 12-inch American flag blocks. And then for every 4 that they posted, I sent them a little gift, and we ended up, I put the final number in my newsletter this past week, but I don't even remember what it was. My light just went out. Hold on just a second. All right, I've tried this again. My light went out because it was connected into my computer. My computer died on me, so I had to go find the cord. It's all the things. So I'll make some adjustments as I get used to this new space, but just wanted to invite you in here today. So one of the, back to what I was talking about, the Quilts of Valor initiative that we did in our Quilt Circle membership. Over the 4th of July holiday, we had all of these flag blocks then. And so I asked our coordinator to send me enough, to send me 60 blocks so that we could make 3 Quilts of Valor quilts while we were at the retreat. So each day I would lay out one quilt, and we had sashing cut, and the members helped piece those together, and that was a great thing. 2 of the members then have taken those home to Longarm quilt them, and I'm so appreciative to Jeannie and to Melanie for doing that for us. And once that is done, bindings put on, then we will be gifting those to a deserving service member. So that was a major thing that we were doing at the quilt retreat. Another thing we were doing is kicking off our 250th USA anniversary quilt along. We started this in October here. This is our first month. I am running this as a mystery, so the members do not know what the quilt looks like. And it is a row quilt, so each month we make 1 row of blocks, and different sizes. This month was a 6-inch block, and we started with a friendship block. And so this is very special. We had ladies representing 10 different states while we were at the retreat, and it just so happens that there needed to be 10 friendship blocks made. So what we did, each member that wants to participate in this is making their own blocks, and so I'm making my own as well. And we started off with a Friendship Star. I am using Primitive Gatherings line, American Gatherings 2. Not much of this is available anymore. You can pre-order, I think, her American Gatherings 3. Very pretty line as well. And then I'm just using a gray background. So I did give fabric requirements to Quilt Circle members. Encourage them to use their stash if they want, red, white, and blue prints, or to purchase some if they needed to. But I am using American Gatherings. So this is a Friendship Star. These finished at 6.5 inches is what you see it is right here. It'll finish 6 inches in the quilt. And then each month I will be releasing a new block, and they'll be working on that. And then at the very end, in June or July of next year, then I will share the finishing instructions, and they'll be able to put their quilt together. Because there were 10 different states represented at the retreat, and we were making 10 blocks, I chose to have each state be on a separate block. So this is Nebraska. And so the member that was at the retreat signed my Nebraska block. And I'm thinking what I may do is do a little bit of embroidery with the state in the middle of it. I think that'll be very special. This one is the Indiana one. I did not sign my own block, so that's what the Indiana one is. Oregon was represented, and this one is Iowa. Then we have Louisiana. This one was Florida. And this one is Nebraska. I was wrong on the other one. The other one was Oklahoma. This one is Nebraska. Then this one is Kansas. And then this one is Florida. The other one that had a couple members, I said that one wrong. That one was Kentucky. This is Kentucky. And this one was Florida. And then I had Missouri as well. So 10 blocks, and I love this. The members that were there at the retreat were able to sign my blocks, Friendship Star blocks, and I'll be able to put these in my quilt that I am working on. And then also we did a Zoom call with other members of the Quilt Circle group, and showed them the new block that they're working on. And even in the members that were at the retreat that may not be working on this particular quilt, I did encourage them to go ahead and cut some blocks and have the members sign that were there, just as a memento, whether they make it into a pillow or put it on the back of a quilt, whatever they want to do. because not everybody wants to participate in a quilt along, especially a mystery one. And I totally understand that. So, but I am doing that. So that was just a lot of fun to be able to work on these and to have something that all the members that were there could sign, and then have those for my quilt. So that's one of those things. I only had one block finished when I went to the retreat, so I finished all of those. What else did I work on at the retreat? Let me show you. So while I was there, besides doing the Quilts of Valor quilts that I mentioned before, I caught up on my flowering quilt along. This comes in the Sew Sampler box. I know the October one is on its way as I speak, but I still had these 2 blocks to finish. So this one was August, I want to say. This is Sweet as Honeysuckle block number 5. Now notice on this one, they did 2 different designs of flowers and then alternated them. I changed mine up a bit and decided to do all 4 the same. So I am using Things Above by Fancy That Design House, and I did all 4 the same. I just decided not to do 2 different ones, but so such a fun block. All half square triangles, that's all it is. Pretty large block. I think all of these finish 18.5. Yeah, all of these finish at 18.5. So there's the first one. I'll throw that over there. Then last month's block, which would have been September, is what this one looked like. The colorway on the called for is Summertime by Camille Ross-Kelly. I'm changing mine. Mine has a little more of an autumn feel. And then this is my block. I had to redo this one a couple times because when you're at a retreat and you're talking and laughing and sharing, sometimes you don't always read directions real well. So I had to redo it a couple times to get everything correct. But liking that. So finished both of those. That was a lot of fun to get caught up on those. Then the next thing I worked on, and what I did is I took everything in I have like 12-inch boxes that I used, and I took in one project and I worked on that one. When I was finished with that one, I took that one back out to the car and brought in the next one. So instead of having everything piled up around me, I was very deliberate. I'm going to start on this one first and then the next one. The next thing I worked on was Scrappy Americana Flag Quilt. This is a quilt along going on with the Fat Quarter Shop. This runs from May through February of next year. And it's just one set of blocks each month. I'd gotten behind a little bit. September, I was up in Minnesota, and then October, I was preparing for this retreat. So I was behind on those 2 sets of blocks. So I did get caught up on those. And September blocks was Large Triangle Stripe is what it's called. These were super simple. These are 6.5-inch half square triangles. Super simple. This one went together so fast. So your reds are very similar because this creates the red stripe in the flag. Made 6 of those, exactly the same. And then the cream colors also very similar because this goes in the white strips of the white stripes of the flag. So, and finished 6 of those. Those were super easy, went very quickly. Those were the September blocks. The October blocks that I finished, see where I put them. The October ones were the double flying geese units. These also finish at 6.5 inches square, and that's what these look like. So just 2 very large flying geese units. Again, didn't take very long to do. All those are the same. All the cream ones are the same, and then all the red ones are the same. Very fun. And 6 of those. So I got all caught up on that, September and October, and then I actually decided to go ahead and start on the November ones. Now the November date is November 14th, so I am ahead of the game, and I'm not going to share those with you. I'll just give you a little sneak peek. These are, what are they called? Mini flying geese strips. And I didn't get them completely finished, but I'll share just a sneak peek. That's the back side of part of it. So much, much smaller, took much, much longer to do than those large flying geese unit. And look what I have too. So this baggie When I am making flying geese units, let me show you on the large ones. When I'm making flying geese units and you stitch you have a square that you put on the rectangle and you stitch across the diagonal, then before I cut that away, I do a second stitch inside that seam allowance, I guess you want to say. I do a second stitch on that square, and then when I cut this away, then I have another whole triangle. So I have another whole half square triangle already done. So this one, if I can show you, this one would have been right there, okay? So when you stitch this, you're stitching your red square, right sides together, on top of the background one, okay? So you're stitching across there. I do a second line closer to the corner, a second line closer to the corner, so there's two, and then I cut in between it, and then this comes away, this part finishes the flying geese unit, and then I have this half square triangle unit already done. Just needs to be trimmed up. And that's all bonus. That is all bonus from these big flying geese units. Well, because I already started on the November ones, which were the smaller flying geese units. Look at these tiny little pieces I have. I have a whole bag full. These probably finish at 1.5 inches. But you're not messing with the little tiny triangle. You know, I'm stitching that as I'm stitching that. After I stitch the one line, then I stitch the second one, and all I'm doing is trimming that off. So it may be a little fussy to press this open and then trim it, but I didn't sew anything on the, you know, I wasn't messing with little tiny pieces. It was all part of the bigger piece. So I have this whole Ziploc bag full. It's a bonus quilt someday, but I'm putting all of the ones from the Scrappy Americana into this bag so that all of the fabrics are together. And I can't imagine what size of quilt that could make because there are so many of them. So that's the second project I worked on while I was at the retreat, was the Scrappy Americana. Then the third one that I worked on, let me grab the book just a second. For 2025, Quilt Circle membership was working on this Shine On sampler, which is in the Bonnie and Camille Quilt Bee book. And I'm a little behind. We're supposed to be finished and starting on this next quilt along. So I took my book and I'm working on this one, and you can see the blocks. I didn't get started on this until the day we were leaving. So I was actually the night before we were leaving. So I was working hard trying to get as much done as I could, but I didn't make it quite as far as I wanted. So let me find, this one is Bloom, the Bloom block. Now this is a Camille Roskelley or Bonnie and Camille pattern. I am using all scraps, from Lori Holt scraps. So some of these were on that quilt back there. Some of them from my garden quilt. I'm using the same colorway as is in the book, but I'm using all Lori Holt prints. Isn't that just darling? And I loved it at the retreat. All around the room they had like the sound panels up, but they make great design walls. And so Melissa, I think, was working on this as well, and she had her blocks up there, and her Bloom block was so pretty. She's doing, it's a very similar colorway to the Fancy That Design House, maybe a little more muted, a little darker blues and things, but it's beautiful. I mean, you could do one of these for each season, and it would just be beautiful. These would make great, just this block would be a great door hanger or something. You could change for spring, summer, fall, I think. I mean, not quite winter, but spring, summer, fall, different colorways. So that's my first one that I finished. And then I very quickly tried to finish one more. This is called the butterfly block. And the colors that Camille calls for are the green and the orange. So I picked out those from my Lori Holt fabrics. I think some of these are Mercantile. I think the green one might be from Mercantile, something. But that's the butterfly block. Those are the only two blocks I finished of this whole quilt along. I was hoping to get much farther, but if you've ever been to a retreat, you know how you probably do more talking than you actually do quilting, but it was a lot of fun. So I worked on that one also. But it was just a glorious, glorious time with the Quilt Circle members. Now, I have been getting emails, when are you opening up Quilt Circle again? And I have decided to open up Quilt Circle on Black Friday. So following Thanksgiving, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'll probably do it those 4 days. At least through Sunday. So Black Friday weekend, I will open up Quilt Circle membership. I like to open it up before the first of the year because that gives new members a chance to get in, get acclimated with how things work in Quilt Circle before we start off the new year. And in the new year, we'll start new challenges. We did a whip challenge this past year. We've done our Quilts of Valor challenge, and some of those things will change up at the first of the year, even though we've started this 250th anniversary quilt already. That will continue, but we will have some other new programs start the first of the year. So I like to get members in prior to January so they can get a running start as we move through January. So mark that on your calendar. There is a wait list for Quilt Circle membership, and I will link that down below. Sign your name up there, and then you will get the emails on that Friday following Thanksgiving that I will open it up for new members. Now, the next question I'm going to get is the retreat center. We are continuing to work. Now that I am here each day working on the long arms while I'm here, I'm able to do a little bit more of setup and things while I'm in the house. But we're just continuing to move along. I will be making the website live here very soon for reservations to start in January. And then if we finish getting everything together prior to that, then I will open up some reservations in earlier months. But I am going to go ahead and make the website live probably next week. I have a little bit more work to do on that. So probably next week I will make the website live. You can start making reservations for January on through 2026, and we'll just work through it that way. I'm confident that we would be open by January. I'm just not sure where in November, December we're going to be able to open. So if we get to that point and I can open up some weeks prior to January, then I will. But at least at this point we can start moving forward. And once we get everything together, I will do a walkthrough video. We're getting very close. It's just not quite there yet. Things have taken, any big project you do, you learn things as you go along. There's always more that happens than you anticipate at the beginning. And so we're just working through some of those details. But it's getting done, and I'm so excited. You can see from this space, if you remember what this one looked like, major change. And so that kind of thing is happening in the other rooms as well. So very, very fun. That is all for my personal sewing this week. Thank you to my Quilt Circle members for joining me for a retreat. It was very, very fun, and we look forward to some retreats here as well. And let's move on to some customer quilts for today. Sharon's quilt measures 77 by 77, and the pattern is called Lucky Layer Cake. Sharon did send me a PDF printout of the pattern. I appreciate that. The pattern is created by Erica Arndt. Erica Made is what her label is. Confessions of a Homeschooler, I think, is her website. And you can download this, or you can purchase the printed pattern yourself. This takes a layer cake, obviously, by the name there. So 36 layer cake squares. A layer cake is 10-inch square. You can buy that curated. That's one of the pre-cuts that the manufacturers do. Or if you have some fabric of your own and you want to just cut 10-inch squares. So this whole quilt is made from 10-inch squares. You will need 4 yards of background fabric, and you can see that is the white in the blocks. And then it does say there is a border of 1 5/8 yard low volume, and Sharon has used this larger floral print around the outside edge. The fabric line on this is Nantucket Summer, and so a layer cake of Nantucket Summer, and then you do need additional yardage for the border and obviously the backing, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, and then also the background of the squares, which is this white. It looks like a solid white. It is not a tone on tone. So look at this block. I love this block. Erica has done a great job with this. All I'm going to tell you is right here in the center, this block is made starting out as a 9 patch. And you'll need to get the pattern to figure out how to make that X then. So this starts out as a 9 patch. So white and then blue and then white and then blue, the green, then blue. So you have 4 prints of the colored ones, 4 prints of the white background fabric, and then 1 for your center square. Each one of those X blocks is then set into a larger star block. That star block has half square triangles around the outside edge to make that star, and then just notice right here in the corner, just the tiniest little easy corner triangle in the corner of that block. That is part of the block. The sashing then is done with polka dots, and let me look. Yes, that is in the pattern. So I'm assuming by the yardage then that has to be either Sharon has then bought additional yardage, because I can't believe that amount of sashing you would get from a 10-inch layer cake. So I'm assuming that Sharon has then added a sashing in here. This is a white with blue polka dots on it, because I just can't believe that would come from a layer cake. So I'm assuming that she's added, and I just can't tell by the pattern. I'm assuming the border or the sashing in there. Yeah, it has a sashing, so I'm assuming the sashing of this one is the same as the background print. I really can't tell by the picture on the I have the pattern, don't I? I have the pattern. Let me look. It says that print use the sashing strips. How is that cut? Sashing is cut from the background fabric, yes. So where on the pattern it's giving you the yardage for all of the background, meaning the background of the blocks and the background and the sashing all comes from the same background print. Sharon chose to make her sashing in a different fabric. Great choice. I love that. So it really sets off the block. Then that sashing, you have the long strips of sashing between the blocks on top, bottom, either side, and then a small corner square right here. Notice the secondary design that you get by those easy corner triangles being in the very edges of those blocks. Very, very nice. So showed you the border. And then the backing fabric. Her backing fabric is a Moda Grunge. This is by Basic Gray, and this is the true blue color. And I like that addition. Now, what you can also do if you're choosing a background or a backing fabric for your quilt, if you go on, at least Fat Quarter Shop does this. I don't know if other websites do it. But if you're on, like this line is Nantucket Summer, they have a little tab under Nantucket Summer. If you're looking at a Nantucket Summer fabric, there's a little tab down below the picture that says related products. When you click on that, it shows you Belle solids that match, because that is also a Moda print. But then this is Basic Gray. So when I looked, they did not list the Basic Gray, the grunge prints that match the line, but they do list the Belle solids that match the line. So there was about 5 different ones for the Nantucket Summer. A lighter blue, a darker blue, maybe the green, and then a white, and those. So if you're choosing fabrics online and need a little help there, that might be a big help. This Moda Grunge looks very, very nice. I like the mottled kind of look to the grunges. You're used to that. Whatever color grunge you're needing, there's every color under the sun out there. This shows off the pantograph, well, I think very nicely. I can see it very nicely. In the camera, I can tell that the modeling of the fabric is showing up quite well. This pantograph is called Moulin Rouge. I did make this. The top of the pantograph is right here where this paisley print is. The bottom of the pantograph comes down underneath this circle right here and the paisley right there. So you can kind of see the size of that. I believe this, I made it either 6 or 8 inches tall is the size of that one. We did use Omni natural white thread on this one. The front of the quilt is white. The background fabrics are white. So I used white on the front of it. And so I just used white on the back too. So the quilting stands out very, very strongly, the white thread on that blue background, but I didn't want to dim the quilt top at all. So I stuck with the white thread, and I just love, I mean, I am the long arm quilter, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I like seeing all the quilting on the back. Kind of turns it into a whole cloth quilt. If you wanted to flip it over and use it that way, I'm sure you could. But it just really shows off the pantograph. So Moulin Rouge is that pantograph. Very, very pretty. Well, did I describe it at all to you? So lots of paisley type of, or feather type designs. You have a tight swirl, does come to a point. On the back of that swirl, then you have another tinier swirl with a little tiny bubble. Then as it's stitching along the back bone of that swirl is where it does the feather type of look or a paisley type of look, is echoed a couple times. On the top of that swirl then you have 3 paisleys that are then echoed, and then kind of just like straight little leaves or something, if you want to call them that. Paisley swirls, and then you go on to the same thing, just turned the other direction. So this swirl is over the top to the right, this swirl is under the bottom to the left, and so that's how it's swirling back and forth. So swirl over, you can even do that hand guided. Practice your swirls, get good with your swirls. So just swirl over and point, swirl out, and then back over here and do a swirl and swirl out. Just keep going underneath and swirl, echo over, and then go over the top and swirl, echo out, and echo over that, and then just go back and forth. And so then what this pantograph has done, your basic backbone of this is the swirl. Okay, so over the top, and then a little bit of stuff in between, but then over the top over here, round to the bottom, a little bit of stuff in between, and then it comes over the top. So that's the basic design. Once you get good with the swirl, then you add in some other things. These are all your basic motifs. They're just put together to create a new pantograph. And so you have your swirls. So then, okay, we're echoing out, and instead of going right into the next swirl, let's add a few paisleys. And you can practice paisleys over and over. When I was doing hand guided, I would do paisley over the whole entire quilt. So this is adding 3 paisleys onto the back of that swirl. And then you could just do that, and you could spin back out and do another swirl, and on the back of that one do some paisleys. So then notice after the paisleys are added, well, now on the top of it, let's add a little swirl here on the top. Well, how about we add a little bubble on there also, and a little paisley, and just spinning out. So it's just adding onto those motifs, building on what you already know. So once you do the swirls, then you can add the paisleys. Once you have the swirls and the paisleys, now let's add a bubble somewhere. And obviously with digital, it's going to be a very cohesive look all the way across the quilt. It doesn't have to be. If you're doing hand-guided work, fill in. This is how you can just fill in. Fill in with some swirls, fill in with some paisleys, echo over the paisleys, echo on the back of your swirl. Put a paisley on the top and then do some more swirls. So it's just adding. Maybe you want a quilt that only has swirls. Maybe you want a quilt that only has paisleys. Maybe you want a quilt that only has bubbles. But then you can also combine those things in different amounts. Maybe more swirls, less paisleys, maybe more paisleys, less swirls, and that's how we're getting all of these digital designs. But don't be afraid of doing that hand-guided. If you don't have the digital, then you can still learn from these pantographs and and see how they're put together, and then just practice those over. It's all muscle memory. It's all just moving, practicing on your marker board. I've mentioned that before. If you have a dry erase board, then take your marker in your hand. This is how you hold your bars if you're doing hand guided. So you hold your marker that way. That's how you practice. Just practice those swirls and practice those circles, and then put a whole cloth on there. Put some muslin on your machine and just practice those over and over. You'll really enjoy it. So that is Sharon's quilt. Very, very lovely. Trish made this quilt using a pattern from A Quilting Life, which is Sherry McConnell, and she has an Etsy site where you can purchase her patterns. This is the block of the month from 2022. So what Sherry does every year, she has a block of the month that you can be a part of. She writes the pattern where you can get 6-inch blocks or 12-inch blocks. Now my understanding is those block of the month patterns, as they come out, are free. At the end of the year, she then bundles those together as one quilt pattern and then sells that on her Etsy site. So there is a quilt along going along right now. You can go check that out on her website, and I'll link that down below. Her Etsy shop then has the patterns that she has bundled together after those block of the month programs are ended at the end of the year. So how she does that is she, like I mentioned, she writes the pattern for both 6-inch and 12-inch blocks. And these are the 12-inch blocks. In order to make the 12-inch blocks, you need 18 fat quarters for this quilt. If you are only making the 6-inch finished blocks, then you can use fat 8s for that. The 12-inch block quilt finishes at 51 by 65, and if you're using 6-inch blocks, you're getting more of a table topper or a wall hanging, because that finishes at 31 by 38. So great use of the fabrics there. This fabric line is Belle. That is a Minnick and Simpson line. So fun. Very patriotic looking, summery type of look. Not that there's any flag. Well, there are some flags in there. I take that back. So you have your reds and your blues. You have some lighter blues. You also have some pinks along with the blues. So some florals in there. Nice little spray of a rose and some other little berries. And this red, and then it has a little bit of a polka dot on the back, very light. And that is the same print. This light blue, this pink, this red, those are all the same print, just done in different colorways. Then for the block here, or the sashing, what is that block? Churn dash? The churn dash block here that's around the outside of the block. So notice what's changing each time is this inner block. And then you have the churn dash setting, and then you have sashing around that. This blue is the same in every block, and that is part of that line that is a polka dot. The polka dots are different colors and they're more scattered, more random. This red print is the same as that blue. The background print that you're seeing is it is a tone-on-tone, very light, very small dots as well. So 12 blocks, one each month, so obviously each one is different, and then you're putting all those together. Along with the sashing, the red sashing, you do have a white cornerstone. Notice around the edge there is just this tiniest white border around the edge. I mean, that finishes at 1/2 inch. And then you have a blue. This is that blue polka dot, the same as that's in the churn dash block there. The blue, and then on the back she used that same fabric as the backing, and that is all part of that Belle Isle line by Minnick and Simpson. Very, very fun. The pantograph we used on this one is called Knit 1 Purl 2, and this is what that pantograph looks like. It does stitch out in this direction, very similar to what you're seeing, and the sizing of mine is very similar to the size you see right here. So the darker, let me take that out of it. This is how I keep pantographs. Not only do I have them on my website, I list them in alphabetical order. I do have a PDF that I've been working on that I keep on my own computer that I do pantographs more by style. So florals or stars or hearts or clam shapes or novelty ones, and eventually I'll get that over to my website. But when I purchase new pantographs, I just put them under those different categories, and it's kind of helping me to categorize, and then I'll be able to do that on my website instead of trying to do it all on my website at once. But what I also do is I print the pantograph out and I keep it in a 3-ring binder, just in sheets, so that I can flip through and look. But that binder is quite thick. I mean, it's about this big. So the PDF on my computer works a little nicer, also because you can see lots of designs at once and not just individual ones. But I do like to print these out so that I can show you as well. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you get a PDF like this to print out? All I do is I use my phone and I go to the website, wherever the pantograph is, and I screenshot the picture, and then I crop it so that I'm just getting the pantograph, and then I save it as a photo, and then I print that out. Sometimes I'll add the words onto it. You know, you can do that in your phone edit features as well. I'll add the words so that the name of the pantograph is right on there. That helps if I'm sending it to a client, and there's no question then. You know, I would hate for some time that if I list a pantograph, list the word, and then I put the picture underneath, and for some reason technology mixes the pictures up and then they ask for one and it's really the other one. So if I have the wording right on the pantograph, I think that's a little safer in that there won't be any question of what that pantograph is. But that's how I print these out. This one is not done in color, but what you can see is that middle row is darker. Most pantographs, if you're looking at them online, they will show you they'll show you a stitch line, so not usually the first picture, but the second one, they'll show usually a short video of how it's stitching out, so you can see if there's any over stitching, any back stitching, anything like that. But also the first one is usually done in 2 tones, either colored or in 2 tones like this. I think you can see that middle section is darker. The top and the bottom are lighter, and that's to show you how the rows nest together. So this is one pass. The darker part is, it's showing you everything that stitches out in that one pass. And then this would be the row above, this would be the row below. That way you can see. Now notice when they show this as the rows, they are picturing it very similar to what I do, in that I close up my rows so that there's about the same amount of space in between those rows as there is in the row itself. Some pantographs, when you see it, they will only show you like the one motif. And I think those are very hard to picture about what it's going to look like across your entire quilt top. So I really like that designers have gone to this look where they're showing you the repeated pattern. A lot of times in Pro Stitcher, the pantographs that are on Pro Stitcher, they're just showing you one motif, and I think it's hard to picture. So I really like this. So knit 1, purl 2. This used to be on Urban Elements. It's not anymore. It's now on OESD, I believe. And I have linked that down below, so you'll be able to get this one. And a very fun design. This one I would say is beginner friendly. There's no fussy points to match up. Just make sure, however close you get your lines together, that you don't hit this one, you know, as you're stitching out. So maybe if you're first starting, you make your rows a little farther apart if you're not comfortable with that close of a space in between there. You can make this larger if you don't like the tightness of those swirls. If you want it a little looser and open, you could do that as well. And I've made this even probably half that size on a quilt that I did of my own. Very, very tiny, and I really like that also. So that's what we used on Trish's quilt. I think it adds a lot of like playfulness, just a very fun design on here. Now what I did on this one, because we have the dark blue backing on this one, but the front is a little lighter, and also because we have some of these light blue prints, I did use Omni Blue Ice thread on that one. And let me grab that so I can show it to you. All right, here is what the Omni Blue Ice looks like. I used this recently. A client had asked me to find a light blue thread, and so I had purchased this one, and I'm really liking it. I think it is kind of it's a neutral, I feel like. It's almost like a light gray, but with just a different, you know, the blue instead of the gray. And Trish said I could do whatever I thought, and I feel like with one thread, okay, if you're looking at the whole cone, it looks very blue, okay, but if you're just doing one thread on there, I think it blends very nicely. So when you get in close and you look at the white threads, you can tell that it's a light blue, but on these others, it's just a light print, and I think it's not quite as light as a white would have been, but it still keeps the quilt feeling very fresh. And I was able to use this because we do have some light blue threads in here. Maybe I could have done pink, but in looking at the pink, what I noticed is there's only a couple places that there's pink. Where here with the blue, I've got the light blue, I've got the dark blue, I've got a lot of blue here. If I'd done pink, there's not quite as much pink in this quilt, even though pink is a lighter color. I would say it's a neutral, kind of a creamy type of look, but there's not as much pink in this quilt, and I think it would have stood out a little bit more. The tone of this quilt is a little more blue. Even though we have some red, I wouldn't have liked red. Red is not a neutral. Red is a pow in your face type of color. But this light blue, I just felt it really worked nicely. So I may be using this on more quilts. I really like the look of it. I need to see if there are pre-wound bobbins that I can do in the light blue. Because on this one I did not wind my own bobbins, I did use light gray in the backing, or in the bobbin. I didn't feel like the blue was that intense that I needed to put that on the back. I really don't think you would be able to tell whether this is light gray or this is light blue. So I did use the light gray bobbin in the back. But if there are pre-wound bobbins, I might do that, just because I kind of see myself using this blue ice color more and more. I really, really like the color of it. So that is Trish's quilt. A beautiful job. These next two quilts were made by Lynn. This first one is called Vintage Sampler. The pattern is done by Nancy Rink, and this was a 9-month block quilt pattern, so a block of the month program. The fabric line is Vintage Charm, and that is done by Judie Rothermel, and this was done in 2022. This was a celebration. I have it on my computer over here, so that's why I'm looking that direction. It says it was the 35th anniversary fabric collection by Judie Rothermel is this Vintage Charm. Says she dazzles us once again with a new collection of scrolls, paisleys, and vines in the earthy neutrals, rich tones of blues, reds, and greens, and the time-honored motifs add a regal touch to Vintage Sampler, which is the pattern done by Nancy Rink. Now it says Nancy Rink created this pattern, a mix of 25 basket and star blocks. All the basket blocks are in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then all the star blocks are around that. Everything is set on point, and then she has added this striped print as the sashing. Very, very nice. And then it says she's provided the perfect outer border to finish at 94 inches square. And here is, I can't reach the edge, so I'm gonna pull it in here. So this is the outer border, and notice how it has all the colors from the center part of the quilt in that large floral border around the outside edge. Very, very nice. So all of your blocks, I would say these measure 12 inches, maybe a little larger than that. And then all of your star blocks. They all look pretty, some of them may be the same. I can see some similarities. Oh, I see now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 are the same. Then, yeah, we're repeating here. These are very similar. Those are very similar. So there's 4. You can't see that. There's 4 of this block, 1 on each edge. There are 4 of this block, 1 on each corner. There are 4 of this block, again 1 on each edge. So there's red in each corner, green and yellow on each side. And then this blue star block that you're seeing here with the blue and the red, there's 4 of those. And then everything else in the center are the basket blocks that you're seeing here. Basket blocks, these 2 are the same. Actually, there's 4 of those, so those 4 are the same. There's 4 of these, 1 on north, south, east, and west, and then 1 signature one. Let me pull this down so you can see the center one. And there is the center block. So for 9 months, this is quite an undertaking. You've got all of the setting triangles done in the blue. Then you have the goldish mustard. It's more of a gold color of a border, and then that large border that I showed you. So quite an undertaking. 25 blocks in 9 months. Intense. This is not easy. I mean, it may be easy piecing, but there's a lot to it, not simple blocks. So very, very nice. Finishes at 94 inches square. The fabric line again is Vintage Charm, and then the quilt pattern is called Vintage Sampler. The pattern is still available. There may even be some kits available. I would just do a search for that and find it. There are several quilt shops that I found that either had the pattern or had the whole kit that you could use. So the pantograph on this, she asked that I use the Baptist fan. So I do use the Easy Baptist fan that's done by 3 sisters, and just a classic look. And again with Baptist fan is directional because you're looking at the fans in this way. This works perfect with this quilt. It's just the sampler style, the vintage style, and just classic, and the Baptist fan goes perfect with that. And then because your basket blocks are also directional, I think Baptist fan works very nicely on this quilt. I did use Omni 3007, that is called Ash. I will open this up because this is a brand new cone of it. Oops. The cone that I was using for this is still on the Longarm for another quilt. So I like the color of this. I thought it blended very nicely with the background print that you're seeing there. Almost the same color, exactly. Cream was a little light, and I felt, so that's why I went with a little darker of a color. So 3007 is the ash. I think that was a perfect match there. Let me flip this over so you can see the backing fabric. The backing fabric on this one is a wide backing by Marcus, if I'm remembering right. Marcus Fabrics. This is part of this same line. It's still part of that Vintage Charm line, but it's one of the wide backings. Now notice with this one, it's done in a lattice type of work, again set on point, so it works perfectly with this quilt. And you've got the leaf print inside. The sashing that's on point is almost like, it almost is like a wood design. It's got little sash marks. And then the cornerstones are kind of a meander stitch in there. So the same goldy, creamy color, and then it's got some of the darker, little bit of a darker brown on the, as you're printing on top. Now this one, the wide backing, selvage to selvage, it's the same whichever way you look at it. Your leaf print is the same if I look at it this way as if I look at it this way, so this backing is perfect. It didn't matter in which direction it was printed on the fabric because it's the same, but like I said, it is still part of that same line, so the tones of it, the colors of it match perfectly. And then you can see that Easy Baptist fan on the back there. So beautiful, beautiful quilt. Great job, Lynn. Lynn's second quilt is called Contrary Wife, and this is a free block that you can print out from the Fat Quarter Shop. This says a classic and vintage quilt series, so it shows you how to create the block. Now, if you want the entire pattern, that is available for purchase, and the reason for that is because it comes in 4 different sizes. So while you're creating the same block over and over, it would give you all the fabric requirements for whatever size you are wanting to make. So from, my printout is not very good, from a table topper to a lap size quilt to a twin to a queen. The pattern gives you all of those sizes and all of the fabrics that you would need for that. Now, the fabric line that Lynn used in this one, she says, is from her stash. The lighter print that you're seeing does have snowflakes in it. Lynn said she is using this as a Christmas quilt because the fabrics are more Christmassy. So the snowflakes, the green, and I would almost bet this is different fabric lines. I don't know that it's all one, but she said she pulled all this from her stash. She did a great job of coordinating them. So a red print, a green, couple different green prints you're seeing here, and then this beautiful tan color with the red flowers there, and that is the same as the backing fabric, and I'll show that in just a minute. So here is one block. Notice square, square, half square triangles. That's what those 4 blocks are. Now this block is the same as this one, it's just turned one, isn't it? This one? Yeah. So if we just turn this one section like this one's this way, if we turn it this way, it's the same block. And then notice when we put 4 of those together, all with the green print towards the center, we get these secondary lines, secondary patterns by seeing that whole diagonal go across the line. I just love it. You're getting this secondary look right here. There is sashing in between the blocks, and that's done with that snowflake print. And then the red print here is the cornerstone. So you're getting this secondary block design with the 4 greens together and the red in the middle, but that is not the block. Your block is right here. Very fun. And then you're getting this secondary design. This is not the block, but you're getting this green design with the red cornerstone. Isn't that cool? I just love it. This is the block. But by turning it each of the directions, you're just one here, one there. This is the same as that one. So you're just alternating them, and that creates this big X, the secondary pattern there, the secondary pattern there. I just love this. I think this is so cool. Let me pull up the bottom so that you can see the borders. For the borders, she has used that same snowflake print as a border around the entire quilt. I love that because that really rests your eye, separates these colors from this color, and it really gives a distinction to the center part of that quilt. But it's acting as your backing fabric. I mean, you could have done a different color border, but I really like this because it sets off the entire center of the quilt and then adds the frame around the outside edge. So this red print is the same as the red print that is in the blocks themselves. Ooh, just love it. Her backing fabric then is that same tan color that's on the front. You can see it's in the center of each one of the blocks. That's what she's used on the back. And then she did use one more block on the back and create a label. She's done some embroidery down here so that it says her name, the date, and even her city and state, which I like that. So I get the question about how do you add labels onto a quilt backing when you're doing long arming. And Lynn put hers in the bottom, this would be the bottom right-hand corner of the backing fabric. Now that is, you know, when you're loading it on your long arm, it would be in the bottom left because you were seeing the wrong side of the backing fabric. Now for this one, because it was fairly close to the edges, I didn't want to start the quilt at the top and then get down here and realize that my quilt top wasn't quite long enough. And it is fairly close to the edge. So that's just too close for my comfort to make sure that I'm coming this far into this bottom part of the quilt. Knowing that I've got it on my leaders right here, you know, that's just kind of close. So what I actually did with this one, the pantograph didn't matter. It wasn't like I was using Baptist fan like I did on the last one, where direction would have been important. This pantograph is the same whichever way I look at it. So I actually loaded the bottom of the quilt backing at the top. And that way I was able to start the quilt right where I wanted, knowing that this label is one of the first thing I'm stitching over, and I've got it into the quilt exactly where I want it, and I'm not leaving it to the very end and hoping I measured right, okay? This just gives me insurance that I've done it correctly. It's right where I want it. I start it right off with that. And so even though the backing was upside down, this quilt doesn't matter. Whichever direction, top or bottom, it doesn't matter. It's the same either way. This pantograph didn't matter either way, so I was able to do that. You may not always be able to do that if you're doing a label on the back and you're doing Baptist fan. You wouldn't be able to flip it the other direction. That would not work. So with this one, it was fine. So just you be the judge. If you're wanting a label in the bottom corner, just make sure you give plenty of room to your long armor, that they have room to load that on the leaders, and Lynn did a nice job on this one. I was able to work very nicely with it. The pantograph on this one is called Jolly Holly. Because this is a Christmas quilt, I decided to go with something that had a hint towards Christmas, but not Christmas trees, anything like that, but just a hint of holly. Let me look through my binder and see if I have this one printed out. Yay, I did. Oh, I did have it printed. So this is Jolly Holly. This is a little smaller than what I have it stitched on the quilt as, but you can see the holly leaves in there, but then lots of swirls with this one. Even the swirls inside of the holly leaves are very, very cute. This is the way it stitches out, and it is pretty wide. You can see from so I was only getting one pass within my throat space on this one, because I did make it larger. Now on this pantograph, you're seeing the dotted lines at the top show you the row above it and the row below it, and then the stitching through the middle. So a pretty dense pantograph, but I did make this much larger because this swirl right here, those are super, super tiny, and I didn't want to make it quite that small. On here, I did use Omni cream color on this. The tone of the quilt is a little duller. Dull's not the right word. It's a little more muted. The greens are muted. The red's a little more muted. The snowflake fabric has got a little bit of a shine to it, a little bit of a metallic printing on it, but it's a mottled background then with that shiny snowflakes on top of it. So you have some little bit of a darker beige color and then the white on top of it. So cream really worked well with that one. So this is Jolly Holly, lots and lots of swirls. And then you got your holly leaves in there too. So I think that's just a beautiful job on this quilt. This one, did I tell you the size of this one? This one measures 94 by 94. Contrary Wife is the block and also the pattern if you want the fabric requirements to make different sizes of this. But can't wait for Lynn to get this one back. This one's going to be beautiful over the holidays. Thank you for joining me today. If you are in need of long arm quilting services, my information is down below. And as I say every week, every quilt is worth finishing. So pull them out of your cedar chest, finish up those quilts. Let's get those done. Every quilt is worth finishing. I will see you back here next week.